All right, thank you all for rejoining me. The first part of the lecture should be already posted to the YouTube channel for this class. This lecture will be posted again shortly. And again, right, like, so look, we always, every day in this class, we always want to keep in mind the goal of the correctional facilities. What are we trying to accomplish here? It's a very serious thing, again, like, incarcerating somebody. So we want to make sure that we're accomplishing our goals in doing so. Again, not only is it serious to the individual, but as I said, you can do your own research on this. But it actually costs more to lock somebody up than it does to send you out to 4 years of college. Right now, there is heavy debate right now in Washington about, how to release funds with COVID relief and all that. Should we help out more people like yourselves? What money should go to HBCUs? What type of money should go to small businesses? So it's a lot of attention. Like, our whole political discussion is really focused on where do we spend our resources? In this country, we spend a lot of them on locking people up, and we want to really look very closely at what this means for our country. I'm not going to test you on any kind of individual numbers or anything, but you do want to be familiar with just the general context and patterns, and know that more than 2 million men and women are serving time in jails and prisons this morning. Nearly 1 out of every 50 adults in America is behind bars. And even though America has just 5% of the prisons, 5% of the population on the planet, nearly a quarter of all prisoners are housed in this country, the richest country in the history of the world. Since 1995, there's been nearly a 40% increase in the inmate population, with a 33% increase in male prisoners. In Savannah, a 51% increase in female prisoners, and particularly Black women. And it may just be a coincidence, but the South has the highest rate of imprisonment. I say that tongue in cheek. It is not a coincidence. Now, there are some aspects that I want you to do your own research on and your own critical thinking. We talked about the 4 goals of criminal justice: retribution, rehabilitation, deterrence, and incapacitation. Don't worry if you didn't get there. We're going to cover all those many times. And if you did miss it, it's being recorded for you. But a lot of our goals, a lot of the things that we do don't necessarily speak to those particular goals. And we want to look at, if they're not achieving those goals, then what goals is it achieving? And one, I think that, I can't remember who it was, but one of you spoke to that it's hard to argue with the goal. At times feels like it's just to lock Black people up. I don't want to take such a cynical view. I don't. But it's hard to ignore that data. When we see how poor we do at lowering the recidivism rate, when we see how poor of a job we do at actually reducing crime, when we know that most crime in this country is not actually committed by Black people, no category of crime. Like, I hope y'all are not disillusioned to believe that, even with drug crimes, and most of those people, these 2.2 million people, most of them, Savannah, are in prison for some level of drug crimes. Most of those people look like you. I hope you're not so aloof to know that most of the drugs bought and sold in this country are not done by Black people. Black people make up 13% of the population. Crack, heroin, all these things are trillion, I was going to say billion, no, $1 trillion businesses. That money is being made by people in the ghetto. Really? Malik, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, we're talking about chapter 2, right?
No, we're still on chapter 1. I'm still at the chat.
I'm about to say no way, because okay, never mind.
Yeah, I'm still at the tail end of chapter 1. I'm almost there. But thank you for seeking clarity. So of that prison population, the 3 most populated prison states, and when you see something in the italics, Malik, you definitely want to study it closer for the exam or quiz. The quizzes are pop quizzes, Savannah. It could be anytime. It could be Wednesday. It could be in 10 minutes. Who knows? Stay on top of the reading and stay ready. And one of the things I'm sorry. Go ahead, Malik. Go ahead.
I'm about to say, if everybody on here, in no way is such thing as a pop quiz, because it is on your syllabus. So it's like if you I'm just leaving it at that. It's on your syllabus, so ain't no pop quiz. You should know when it's coming.
No question. And really, I'm very predictable. You just got to listen to what I'm saying. So I'm telling you, Texas, California, like in some form, this is going to be on the test. And it shouldn't be that hard to just think like these are 3 of our most populated states. Probably the 3 most. Like New York might be up there as well. But Texas, California, Florida, they be locking a lot of people up, dog. These are also more racially diverse. In addition, like a large part of it has to deal with, they lock a lot of people up for the traditional crimes, rape, burglary, murder, indecent exposure, all types of stuff. But since they're all border states as well, Savannah, they also have a lot of immigration arrests as well. They got large cities. Again, I'm sure I don't have to tell you that, in bigger cities, there's going to be more crime. And they have large economies that allow them to fund correctional facilities. Again, these things come out of taxpayers' money. Like a fun fact, I'm sure, again, with you all being criminal justice professionals, none of you all have probably smoked marijuana before. But you know why marijuana became legal in California?
Because it was.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Malik. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, it was one of their biggest crimes. So they made it legal. They know. No. Nope. That ain't
the reason. No. Nope. Why do you think they made it legal?
To put a tax on weed?
Yes. Definitely. And why did they need that money? They needed the money. No, they needed the money because their state was going broke, locking so many people up. Do y'all research? I could be making it up, but it's the truth. Again, like it sounds good for a politician to come on TV, Latasia. We're going to be tough on crime. We're going to throw the book at it. We're going to put everybody in. That sounds great. Sounds wonderful. However, the reality is that, again, like that got to come out of the government funds. So when they put all this money for prisons, that's less money for schools. That's less money for old people's health care. There's less money for the roads to get improved. That's less money to make sure that your electricity and internet grids are well functioning. All types of other things get pushed by the wayside because we got to lock people up, people that look like y'all. So we talked about several different models before. Hear me out here. Make sure you're listening. We went with the classical school model. We had the progressive era. We had the era reform. We had the medical model. Latasia, these are all different approaches to how we're going to lock people up. Then what are we trying to accomplish? And what are the prisons going to look like? Again, there are pictures in your book. Look at them. This is the actual Western Penitentiary. Back from the early 1800s. This looks better than some modern prisons, don't it? The wall's a little dilapidated and stuff, but again, you got a nice little desk up in there, comfortable bed, got a lamp, a little lounge chair up in there. That ain't how prisons be looking today, dog. I need y'all to be thinking about why. That ain't just no coincidence. So again, we went through the classical school. We had the progressive era. We had the reform era. We had the medical model. The approach that we have lived under all of your lives, Latasia, and most of mine, is the crime control model, the crime control model, the crime control model. But we're going to get tough on crime. We're going to lock everybody up. We're going to shoot people if they look at us the wrong way. Unless they try to invade the Capitol, then we're going to let them do what the fuck they want to do. Did I say that out loud? My bad. With each approach, Latasia, it's not enough. It's important for you to know what they did, how the government approached these things. So again, We got much longer sentences now, Malik. Some that you might have been sentenced for like 2 years for back in 1978, 10 years. That'll show them. Savannah, did you have a question or a comment? I'm sorry.
Well, it's kind of a comment. I don't understand, like, okay, say, okay, a black boy can do one crime and he get more time than a white boy doing the same crime. Like, I don't understand that. Like,
sure you do. Yes, you do. But part of it, Savannah, and this is really important, we need more people that think and see this like you involved in making these decisions. Because prosecutors are often the ones that determine, like, so prosecutors, if you get arrested, the prosecutor can say, okay, look, I think the Savannah just should get probation for this crime. Or they can like, you know what, I think Savannah should get 10 to 15 years. There's a lot of research on this. Do your own research, don't take my word for it. But white prosecutors and black defendants, there's a very different levels of sentencing. So we need more people. And again, it isn't just white and black. There are many white people that are fighting on the right side of this debate. There are many white people, you know, like Professor Rose, that see the injustices of this system and call it out and critique it and try and correct it. So it's not just black and white. And to be clear, like, you know, if a black person, my nephew is waiting to be sentenced for, you know, he's in jail. He is waiting to be sentenced for prison right now. He's probably going to do some significant time. I can't really, you know, we can't really argue with it that much. Like, we love him to death and we're going to always love him unconditionally. But he's been a wild boy out here. So I'm not going to say up here and say, oh, because he's black. No, like, Rashid probably needs to go to jail. I'm sorry. It sounds awful, but he probably needs to do a little bit of time. Everybody else in his life, Savannah, that's been trying to tell him right from wrong, he ain't listened to. Maybe he'll listen to them a little bit more. So I'm not suggesting that black people that commit crime should not do time. We just want to, again, should they do 25 years for something that might not be that offensive? Malik, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, I had to make sure I looked it up. Basically, one of the cases, was it Batson versus Kentucky, where, you know, they had to change the jury because, you know, he felt as though, you know, the jury was mostly of white people, and, you know, he was a black guy being sentenced, so he felt like he should have been judged by more members of his peers and community.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. Like, jury selection is one of the most racially tinged aspects of the criminal justice system. I'm glad that you have looked into stuff like that, Malik. I would encourage you all to look into those things a lot more deeply. And hopefully, ain't none of y'all ever in a court of law, but if you are, that's one of the things that you definitely want to consider. That's how you get the kind of jury that you get, for example, Malik, in the Trayvon Martin case, where they made it a point not to put any black males on that jury. Race should not have this kind of impact on our criminal justice system, Savannah. It does. It got an impact on almost everything. I'm hoping your generation can change that. But I need y'all help, man. I need y'all to get engaged in these discussions and understand all the history that has come before, because I ain't gonna lie, y'all got a lot of work cut out for you. There's a lot of problems in our criminal justice system. And again, not just black and white. Like, the main problem is green. Like, we spend money on a lot of stupid stuff. Again, longer sentences. Longer sentences sounds good when you're running for office, Malik. What that means is those longer sentences, you got to be paying somebody's room and board for 25 to 30 years. There's a fear that my nephew may get 30 years, Savannah. He's y'all age. They got to pay for his food, his health care. If he get diabetes while he's in there, the state got to pay for that. If there's an HIV patient, the state got to pay for their medications. If they have a special diet, the state got to pay for that. So longer sentences means that the taxpayers are paying, again, if it's Dylan Roof, I feel you. Yes, for however long it's take, we need to make sure he's in bars. But from y'all observation, again, most of y'all are upperclassmen. The people that get long sentences, do y'all think it's for stuff like that, murder and rape?
No, because I feel like if they could, they would put everyone who go to jail for a significant amount of time. Like if you getting like 25 to life or you get life, it would be easier to put you to death, but it costs so much money to kill people, be put to death, they don't do it.
Right. And then we also want to explore the death penalty itself, right? So like there are a lot of people, again, a lot of bad people who are in prison today. Do you believe that everybody who's in prison is actually guilty of the crime?
No,
No.
not really. I don't.
I do not either, Savannah. It's a
They
lot of
just at
people,
the wrong place, the wrong time.
or they just didn't have enough money to like offer a good defense. Like that's a large part of it. Like most cases don't go to trial. It's like plea bargains and stuff like that. So it's a lot of innocent people that are in prison. So one of the things we want to consider with it, so for one, right, with the death penalty, what are we trying to accomplish there? What's the goal with the death penalty? Because you're right, the death penalty, it began to get used a lot more, particularly for Black people. Do y'all research on that? I could be making it up.
Oh yeah, it's a case with that.
What's the death penalty trying to accomplish?
Was just trying to set an example.
Okay. What else? So if you murder somebody else, if you murder somebody, this is what can happen to you. What are you thinking some other objectives of the death penalty?
I want to say population control.
No.
No.
No. All right, so look, there are 4 major goals of the criminal justice system. Does anybody recall what those are? Retribution, rehabilitation, incapacitation, and deterrence. We're going to explain all those in more detail. So everything that we do in the criminal justice system, Latasia,
Can you repeat that one more time?
should be connected to one of those goals in some way. So population control is not one of those goals. It might be an implicit goal, but it's not a stated goal. So which of those goals do you think that the death penalty helps us to accomplish?
Deterrence.
Good. Again, you see somebody else get killed, that might make you think about killing somebody else. What else? What might be another goal? So another goal is the incapacitation. That again, if somebody else, again, the 4 goals are incapacitation. We keep them incapacitated. If they're incapacitated, they can't harm other people. Deterrence. If other people know that this could happen to them if they commit this crime, this punishment can happen to them, other people are less likely to follow suit. Retribution. That the aggrieved party is paid back in some way. So there are some crimes that are economic, where retribution like the sentence may not be, Savannah, you got to like go to jail. It may be that, okay, you got to pay Malik $500 for the services that you were supposed to give him. Other times it can be rehabilitation, where hopefully, again, we're going to punish them, they learn their lesson, and they have better habits afterwards. So the death penalty can be connected to incapacitation, but we can do that without killing them. I ask this because, again, it's important to understand that most of the people in America historically that have gotten the death penalty have been Black. Almost all, the vast majority, Latasia, a Black person has killed a white person. If you kill me, you got a better chance of escaping the death penalty than if you kill a white person. Do y'all research on that? I could be making that up. But as I asked you before, Savannah, are there any innocent people in jail? Y'all think there's been any innocent people that's been put to death? That's gotten the death penalty?
Yes.
Y'all think
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So are we cool with America? Do y'all know it's maybe 4 countries in the whole world? It's 300 countries in the world. It's 4 that use the death penalty. 4. You know who used the death penalty? Societies that do stuff like this. That's what we use it. That's who think it's okay to kill people. Because your goal ain't really to try and reform people or to keep people protected. It's to express your rage and punishment. But like I said, we don't do that for everybody else. So I would be very mindful and careful because again, right, There are a lot of things that criminal justice professionals, Black criminal justice professionals repeat that are rooted in white supremacy. That if y'all don't use your critical thinking skills to really understand and unpack this stuff, you're gonna go out here and do some of the same things that white folks have been doing for generations. It wasn't just a white officer that killed George Floyd. Y'all know that, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So again, it's not enough that if you're Black, but you think like a white person in the criminal justice system, you're a fucking white person in the criminal justice system. The death penalty, again, has not shown to deter murder one bit. Again, right, because you would expect, again, what positivism? We got to have data that shows some objective facts that show that what we're doing is working. Savannah, it's 4 countries in the world that got the death penalty, right? So it was if deterrence is really working, wouldn't those countries probably have like the lowest murder rate?
Yeah, they should.
They don't.
That's crazy.
So, right. So again, and what's crazy though is we do things generation after generation that don't actually work. The death penalty does not actually bring down the murder rate. Think about this for yourself, right? And I didn't mean to spend too much time on this. We're going to have a whole chapter on the death penalty at the end of the text limitation. What kind of people are murderers? What kind of people are murderers?
Everybody a murder is what pushed you to get there.
Excellent, Savannah. What that speaks to is anybody can be a murderer. The notion of deterrence works from the premise that, hey, I have given thought, like, look, if I go and try and rob this bank, I know what will probably happen. I really would like to get that money, but I know what will probably happen. So I'm not going to do it because I know the punishment is going to be pretty certain and severe. Murder generally doesn't operate like that. There are some cases where, Latasia, you may like, you know what? This girl been looking at my man too close. So I'm finna like, I'm finna go over there and shoot her. We're gonna do it about 3:30, but no, we're gonna wait till it's nighttime and boom, boom, boom. When you play it and map it out. There are a lot of murders that are done that way. You know how the vast majority of murders happen? Savannah, people get pushed in a moment and they end up killing somebody. Somebody's gonna be a murderer today. Most of those people did not wake up this morning thinking they was gonna kill somebody. You get in a situation, your temper get a little heated, and you do something that you should not. I give you all that, again, do your own research on this, but I give you all this example because, Latasia, if people are committing a crime like that in a spur of the moment, they're not really thinking it out, deterrence is probably not going to be the best strategy. And that's one of the reasons why the death penalty doesn't really do an effective job in bringing murder down. Again, they gave we banned the death penalty in Illinois, but during the time that it was in place, people kept committing murders in Chicago left and right. Do you understand? Do you know why why we ended the death penalty in Illinois? Do you know why? Go ahead, Savannah.
I guess they felt like they basically killing each other anyway. So why? Incorrect.
I don't know if this is the right statement, but I'm gonna just shoot my shot with it. Was there one place where they felt like though more black people were getting sentenced to death than whites?
Nope. The main thing was the technology had advanced, right? So like somebody might have got convicted of murder in 1985. And we see, Malik, you definitely did it. We put you in jail. We got all the evidence. Malik is in jail for prison. In prison for murder. Is there any technological developments that happened that may have given Malik a fighting chance? If Malik feel like he didn't really do it, is there any technology that may have came about since 1985 that might help Malik with his case? In 1985, when Malik went to prison, and y'all these are like, y'all are criminal justice majors. These are things y'all should be knowing. In 1985, when Malik went to prison, there was no DNA evidence and stuff like that. By the time that technology and science had developed, we can say for sure that like, hey, there were 3 people at this crime scene, but ain't none of them got the DNA that Malik got. So whoever committed this crime is still out there. As another quick aside, Savannah, it was also found that a lot of people in Illinois and in Chicago in particular, a lot of people were confessing to murder. And that's how they got their convictions. I would not expect you to know this. How do you think they got people to confess? The police would beat people, Latasia, into confessing. Do y'all research. Again, I know it may sound crazy, like, again, conspiracy theory, militant black militant Muhammad is just telling us all this stuff. This is the truth. Do your own research. The police chief there, Latasia, would lock you up and say, hey, Latasia, we know you committed this murder. Just go ahead and cop to it. But I didn't commit this murder. Bow. Did you commit this murder? No. 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 Bow. Okay, fine. Yes. Okay, cool. Latasia, sign right here. Your Honor, I have evidence. I have a signed confession from Latasia Richardson. She definitely committed the murder. Case closed, right? So some students at Northwestern University started to investigate some of these death row cases. And they found that a lot of them people was locked up on some real bogus evidence. Again, the Law and Order and all these crime shows that you watch, they look real sexy, man. A lot of times they're not that much invested in trying to find out who did it. It's just enough to lock people up. They found that there were many people that was on death row, Savannah, that definitely had not committed that crime. It was maybe about 10 people. Those are just the ones they knew about. The logical conclusion from that, Latasia, is like, hey, if we got those cases wrong, maybe it's possible that we might get other cases wrong as well. So if somebody commits a murder, we're going to lock them up for a long time, and it's going to be a harsh existence for them. But maybe we shouldn't kill him because Malik, right, he was still in death row waiting his trial. A lot of people, Latasia, they weren't that lucky. Like, there's been DNA evidence, Savannah, that has cleared people that we already put on death row. Do your own research. I could be making it up. But it's like, damn, Latasia, we got this science and evidence. Now it's like, shit, you really did commit the murder. Latasia was telling the truth. Damn, too bad we killed her already. So we want to, again, it is very important that we understand and we really think through, what are we trying to accomplish here? If we're trying to, like, incapacitate people like Dylann Roof where he can't harm anybody else, there are ways to do that. The crime control model, though, still had much more use of the death penalty. There was more intensive supervised probation. Determinate and indeterminate sentences. Anybody get a chance to look that up during the break at all? Look that up and try and be prepared to discuss that on Wednesday. Well, Latasia, you want to try it? I thought I saw a hand up. So this crime control method, as I talked about, Savannah, it really impacted state economies. That, again, like a lot of white politicians got a lot of headway by locking up, hey, let's lock up all these dangerous people. Again, Hillary Clinton herself, her presidency was harmed. She called them super predators. We got to lock up all these dangerous people. And that sounds great. People are going to be safe and more secure. But this had a major impact upon state economies because their prison populations, particularly in these top 3 states, really began to explode. And they just didn't have enough money to keep all those people in prison. Now, I've been talking about throughout, Malik, the 4 goals of the criminal justice system. These are not, and I have no doubt that your instructors have shared these with you before. So these should not be new to you to this class. The main 4 ones, Latasia, are in italics. In the 20th and 21st century, we've introduced a couple of other ones. Again, retribution, incapacitation, deterrence, and rehabilitation. Those are going to be the main ones that you're going to be tested on. But we are going to talk about restorative justice and reintegration because, again, as I talked about, Savannah, the criminal justice system, do your own research on this. It is very much rooted in the notion of white supremacy and ideas and principles associated with that. So we want to be very careful about not duplicating those components. Let's look at these underpinnings in a little bit more detail before we go for the day. Retribution. This is the principles of just desserts. If you steal something, Savannah, then you should get your just punishment for that. Otherwise, you might get the impression that you can do whatever you want. Another important component of this, Latasia, is that the state has to have control of retribution. If somebody breaks into your home, we prefer this notion, we need the police to deal with that as opposed to you dealing with it, Latasia. We don't want people, Malik, taking the law into their own hands. If we do, again, as a society, if we allow that to happen, all of our society is very chaotic. Through retribution, Malik, lawbreakers understand that choices have consequences to them. But a challenge with this, Savannah, as we talked about, right, is that there are people who commit crimes sometimes. And like, if you have a mental health issue, it doesn't just give you carte blanche to commit crimes. But the notion of retribution requires some rational thought. That it's a rational thought that if you're doing 90 and you see the police on the highway, you're going to slow down because you know that you're going to be punished. And generally, Savannah, they've been too they've not been quick enough to catch me. But when they have, it's like I'm like, you know what, you got me. I can't argue it. I was speeding. I'm gonna have to take that one. I got one on the morning of my dissertation defense, Savannah. And my white professor, she's a very liberal young lady, and she's like, "Is this did you? Is it because you was driving while black, Kareem?" And I was like, "No, I was really speeding." Now, if everybody's speeding and they pull over the black person, then we might have to have some discussions. But again, it has rational thought, and people with mental health issues, like their brains are not operating that same way to understand, the effects of punishment fully. Incapacitation, again, we need to make sure that people that do such harm can no longer victimize society. Again, we want to look at our goals here, right? So if we want to punish people, it's okay. We're going to need to punish people sometimes, Savannah. We want to look at what are we trying to accomplish. So why would it not be a good idea? Or what? Let me ask it this way. Why do we not punish people that go over the speed? Why do we not lock up? Why do we not put in prison people? Usually, why do we not put people in prison for going over the speed limit? Why do we no longer do that? Why do we not do that? Why do we decide not to put people in prison? Don't overthink it. We don't consider them a major threat to society. Again, if you're murdering, if you're raping, we need to make sure, again, that your habits that can damage everybody, that you don't continue doing this stuff and you harm more people. So we need to make sure that you're incapacitated so that you don't harm other people. So if you write a bad check, you're gonna get punishment for that. We don't know if you should be incapacitated. If you steal some socks, if you steal some videos for your child, for your little kid, you're gonna get punished. We're not sure if you should be incapacitated for long periods for that. Latasia, all those are crimes that people have been sentenced 25 years to life for. We're going to talk about those in more detail later on. So through the crime control model that I talked about before, right? One of the things that came out of that was the 3 strikes law. The 3 strikes law, again, we're going to get tough on crime. That these people, they keep committing these crimes, they're going to learn their lessons. So if you commit a 3rd felony, you automatically get 25 to life with no flexibility from the judge. So there were some people, Savannah, where their 3rd crime was they wrote a bad check. They got 25 to life. There was a man in California who stole some socks. he got 25 to life. And your tax dollars, Latasia, are going to make sure that people like that are put in jail. Again, it's a very popular response to crime. Let's just throw everybody in jail. That sounds great. And so your state got to be paying for all this stuff. And then all these broke ass states, like California, like Illinois, like New York. Again, Illinois, they just legalized weed next year. It's coming everywhere, y'all. It's too much money. Again, these states are broke. They don't have enough money. Like one of the reasons why we can't get the COVID vaccine out here, the states don't have resources to be able to disperse that stuff in a competent way. It's just not a sustainable economic model, Malik, to keep locking people up. As a result, more and more states are using private prisons, and we'll talk about that unfortunately later on as well. Deterrence. Again, you want to prevent future crimes, Malik. So retribution, right, is more personal for you. You did something wrong. You, Malik, violated your curfew. You, Malik, stole this car. You, Malik, stole somebody's credit card. So you should be, pay some retribution for that. The retribution may be that you have to do a jail sentence, or you may have to pay back the $3,000 plus fine plus fees for all the money that you ran up on Latasia's credit card. Deterrence, though, is important. That again, it's important that we see the punishment, because punishment is not just done for Malik; it's done to make an example of other people as well. You see what happened to Malik. If you commit this crime, Savannah, this is what will happen to you. And finally, rehabilitation. I'll come back on to these on Wednesday. I want to make sure I get through them before we get knocked out again. Although all of these are in your textbook, written in a lot more detail than I'm explaining them here. So I hope that you'll avail yourself to that most of all. Again, if I know you all get sick of me stressing reading so much, but in college, you usually got to read a lot. And in your careers, not your jobs, Latasia, not your jobs, but your careers, you're going to have to read a lot. And that's very true in criminal justice. The laws are changing constantly. That's why hopefully this is a topic that you really are interested in, and that makes it a lot easier to read than if you got to read about 13th century English literature. Rehabilitation is pretty straightforward, Latasia. That again, we believe that most people who go to jail, again, you're going to have your Dylan Roofs and people like that, but most people again who get in prison are going to come back into society. One of my close friends, his brother just came home for like a 20-year bid last summer. He's not trying to go back into that cage by any means. Learn this lesson again, and that's it. Like it wasn't like he just was this habitually bad person. Like all of us are capable of, Savannah. He made a mistake. You should have to pay retribution for that mistake. But we also hopefully that if you got to spend all that time at my tax dollar expense, that they're getting something from it. So in this way, vocational training that you talked about, Malik had mentioned education. That ideally we want to put these things in the prisons as well to make it where when they get in society, they can actually compete. Any questions before we close for the day? I'm going to begin with chapter 2 on Wednesday. Please read ahead of time. Please.
Yes,
Please.
one question.
Yes.
Okay, so on Cengage, there is stuff that's showing up. It keep popping up as due, it keep notifying me.
For sure. For sure. The mind tap stuff, I'm sorry to cut you. We're going to get cut off in a second. I don't assign any mind tap exercises, if that's what you're talking about, but I would encourage you to still do them. I'm not going to grade you on them, but it'll give you a sense of how well you understand the material. So good question. I'm not assigning those though, but I would absolutely encourage you to do them.
Okay.
Great question. You do get your first assignment from me on Wednesday, so please read up. Have a good afternoon.
What did you say?
I said you will have your first assignment on Wednesday. I'm going to post it on Wednesday. So read up so that you can get started on Wednesday. This lecture will be posted shortly.